Alright, so here we are with the 4-7 notes. There is a notes guide that follows along with this that is kind of in a different format, but the idea is all still the same. So, as you can see, there are some lesson objectives, and so we're going to graph a line and write a linear equation using a point and a slope, and then the second one there is to write a linear equation given 2 points. So, the whole, of course, idea here is that we're going to need to know the slope-intercept form. Even though we're talking about point-slope form, we'll be using that standard form of slope-intercept. So, just in review, our slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. Alright. So, we're going to go ahead and do our first example here of writing the slope-intercept equation for a line with the given slope and point. And the slope is going to be 1/6 and the point is 5,1. And remember that that means that our m is 1/6 and our x and our y are 5 and 1. And the fact that we don't know the b. And so because of that, we're going to put that into the equation. And so instead of a y, I'm going to put a 1. Instead of an m, I'm going to put 1/6. And instead of an x, I'm going to put a 5. You'll notice I put 5 in parentheses just because I know that I'm multiplying that one. So 5 times 1/6 is 5/1/6, so 5/6. And then to that we'll add a b. And so in order to solve, this positive 5/6 is going to have to move over. And of course you could have turned that into a decimal as well, but the idea is going to be still the same. So 1 minus 5/6 leaves us with 1/6, and so that means that b is 1/6. So rewriting our whole formula, that means that we are going to have y equals and an x. Remember that in your formula you must have both of these. You need to have an x and a y, and then we started out with our slope of 1/6, and then we ended with our b, or our intercept, of 1/6 as well. Alright, so kind of just a step-by-step of this to make sure that we are all there. Our first step is to read the problem and identify the numbers to plug in. So, read problem, identify variables. So as we take a look at our previous one, you'll notice that I put my little m there and my x and my y, and I said that b we didn't know. Alright, then step 2 says that you need to write the y equals mx plus b format. So that's where I wrote it right here. Then step 3 says go ahead and fill in the variables from step 1. Step 4, we're going to combine like terms, which in this case is going to be multiply. We're going to then solve for the variable, which is most likely going to be b. And then the last piece is to plug in to y equals mx plus b, but remember to keep y and x. Alright, so again, taking a look at those steps and what we did here, we read the problem and identified these are our m, x, and y, rewrote y equals mx plus b so that we can fill in the numbers from step 1. Then we combined our like terms, so 1/6 and 5 became 5/6, solved for our variable, learned it was 1/6, and then plugged it into our original equation, keeping the y and keeping the x. Alright, so let's go ahead and try it in our next one. So in our next example, we've got our slope, which is m, and they give us an x and a y, and again b we don't know. So then we go ahead and write our y equals mx plus b, and fill in our y, which is 4, our m, which is 3, and our x, which is -1. Then we go ahead and combine our like terms. So we're going to have 4 equals the combination of 3 times -1, so -3 plus b. Solve for that variable by, this case, adding a 3 to both sides. And then we get a 7 equal to our b. Now that we know that 7 equals b, we're going to go ahead and write our equation. And remember, that keeps the y, keeps the x, and allows you to fill in the m and the b. So our m is still 3, and our b is 7, and so this is our equation, 3x plus 7. Alright, so we're going to try one more example, and then we are going to be done with this. So, next one here, I want you to write an equation that describes the line in slope-intercept form. And what do we notice? There is no slope. So that means that we're going to have to first, instead of just be given the slope in our previous ones, we're going to find the slope. So y2 minus y1, let's over x2 minus x1 means that we'll be filling in our x1 and our y1 with those, and our x2 and our y2 with those values. So the y2 is going to be 1, and then I'm going to subtract y1, which is a -3. And then I have an x2, which is 4, and I'm subtracting a 2, which is x1. So that means that we have 1 plus 3, which is actually 4, 4 minus 2, which is actually 2, and so our slope actually becomes 2. From there, we go back to our problem, and we say, okay, well, those were what we assigned before, but now we need an x and a y for plugging into y equals mx plus b. So I have y equals mx plus b, and I'm going to fill in that my y is -3, my m is 2, and my x is 2. Alright, from there we combine our like terms, so we know it's 4 plus b equals -3. Continue to simplify, so we'll subtract our positive 4 over, and so we end up with -7 equal to our b. So now we have a slope, we have an intercept, and so putting them together, our equation is going to be y equals, with an x in it, and our slope is 2, found from the formula, and our b is -7. Alright. So, just in review, what is the difference between example 2 and 3? In example 2, we were given 1 point, and example 3, we were given 2 and no slope. So, since there was no slope in the third example, we had to solve for it. Slope was not given directly. And then also, what step and where would you add your algorithm to include this type of problem? So for this type of problem with 2 points, you kind of end up having a step 1.5. So step 1.5 is use the points to find slope. With that slope formula. Alright, so that's the idea, and we are going to work on the assignment next time we have class.